Well, I don't know. I can't quite figure you out. Well, what are you trying to prove? Why am I here?
Well, Sam, I
After all, little Nermo could have driven you down here. Why did you ask me?
thought you might want to kiss me goodbye.
Spencer Tracy was one of old Hollywood's titans, a two-time Oscar winner, a studio favorite, and a man whose performances were praised for their honesty and emotional depth. But behind the scenes, Tracy was far more complicated. He drank heavily, carried a short fuse, and could be shockingly cruel. So when you see a modern headline claiming he once revealed the 5 most evil actors of old Hollywood, it sparks curiosity. Did he really name names? Did he keep a secret list of enemies? Did he expose hidden villains in the golden age of film? The answer is no, he never created such a list. But the myth likely comes from somewhere. Tracy himself frequently behaved like the villain in his own story. The feuds, the power plays, the manipulation, the predatory behavior, those were real. So instead of chasing a fake list of evil actors, this documentary looks at 5 genuine incidents where Spencer Tracy's actions toward his co-stars and colleagues reveal the darker corners of his personality. Number 5. Ingrid Bergman versus Lana Turner. When MGM announced that Spencer Tracy would star in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1941, the studio was confident it had a prestige adaptation on its hands. Tracy was at the height of his power, one of the most bankable actors in the industry, and the studio planned to surround him with equally dazzling talent.
La mia candela brucia ad ogni estremità, non durerà fino all'alba. Però, nemici miei e dolci amici, come risplende. Ti piace questa?
Lana Turner, one of MGM's rising stars, was the natural choice to play his love interest. Glamorous, popular, and already skilled at matching the energy of intense male leads. But before filming even began, the story took a sharp turn, one that revealed just how ruthless Tracy could be when something or someone caught his attention. According to the Daily Telegraph, Tracy became instantly captivated by Ingrid Bergman the moment he saw early studio footage of her. Bergman was just 26, relatively new to Hollywood, and carried a natural softness that starkly contrasted with Turner's bold, fashionable image. Rather than trusting MGM's casting instincts, Tracy made an ultimatum. If Turner remained in the cast, he would walk off the film. The Telegraph reports that he threatened to quit if Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer picked Lana Turner ahead of Ingrid Bergman. And MGM, desperate to keep their star attached, folded almost immediately. With Turner pushed out, Bergman was brought in, whether she wanted the role or not. Once she arrived on set, Tracy's interest shifted from professional to personal. The Telegraph alleges that the married Tracy began seducing Bergman during the shoot. She later admitted that their affair left her emotionally conflicted and overwhelmed. Bergman was talented, intelligent, and ambitious, but she was also new to the studio system. Tracy, by contrast, was a veteran who understood exactly how much influence he had over casting, publicity, and the day-to-day life of young actresses. This wasn't a battle between Bergman and Turner. There was no rivalry between the two women. Bergman had not asked to replace Turner. Turner had not done anything to be removed. The conflict was entirely driven by Spencer Tracy's desire. He used his leverage not for artistic reasons, not to protect the integrity of the film, but to secure the attention of a co-star he found desirable. Tracy's decision didn't just inconvenience Turner, it reshaped the trajectory of two women's careers. Turner was humiliated but stayed loyal to MGM, building her stardom over the next decade. Bergman, pulled into Tracy's orbit, found herself navigating a volatile studio environment where powerful men could make or break opportunities with a single threat. And Tracy? He faced no consequences. The film moved ahead. His reputation remained untarnished. MGM never questioned whether he had crossed a moral boundary, because in that era, boundaries barely existed for stars of his stature. What makes this episode so telling is how quiet the harm was. No punch was thrown, no shouting match erupted on set, yet the power imbalance was immense. Tracy proved he could control casting with a single demand. He proved he could pursue a vulnerable co-star without pushback. And in doing so, he revealed a side of himself that fans rarely saw. a man willing to disrupt careers simply because he wanted something different. Here's something to think about. If someone used their professional power to push you aside just to get closer to someone else, would you see it as ambition or something much darker? Number 4. Katharine Hepburn.
Can't go now. The paper's in a jam. We're facing a libel suit.
Well, you're facing a breach of promise suit. If you don't want to marry me, just say so.
Few Hollywood relationships are as mythologized as the 26-year partnership between Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Fans tend to picture them as the ultimate golden age duo, sparring on screen, inseparable off screen, joined by some poetic bond of brilliance. But the real story was far more complicated. Tracy loved Hepburn deeply, but he also belittled her, controlled her, and treated her in ways that revealed a harsh and sometimes cruel streak, one that completely contradicts the romanticized image studios promoted. The first clue comes from their earliest meeting. Hepburn, still young and eager to impress, asked director Joseph Mankiewicz what Tracy thought of her initial performance. She hoped for encouragement or at least a neutral remark. Instead, Mankiewicz had to deliver a cutting, almost absurd message. "Katharine Hepburn has dirty nails, hasn't she?" Tracy had said. That was his grand first impression. Not her talent, not her presence, her nails. Hepburn later laughed about it, but in truth, it set the tone for their dynamic. Tracy could be dismissive, even petty, and he seemed to enjoy testing her confidence. As their relationship deepened, so did his habit of cutting her down in front of others. In a 1997 biography, Hepburn recalled offering an opinion during a group conversation. Tracy didn't respond thoughtfully or disagree politely. Instead, he snapped, "Who in the hell asked you?" The remark embarrassed her publicly, and it wasn't a one-off. Tracy often used blunt, biting comments to reassert control or silence her. Hepburn later admitted she simply took it, believing she had to protect him from stress, drinking spells, or emotional instability. People who observed them privately noticed the imbalance. Tracy demanded Hepburn's loyalty, patience, and silence. She cooked for him, shielded him from unwanted visitors, and rearranged her life around his mood swings. When he drank, she hid bottles. When he raged, she calmed him. And whenever she tried to express frustration, he shut her down quickly. Friends said she surrendered parts of her independence, something shocking considering her reputation for strength. Tracy's dismissiveness wasn't always intentional cruelty. Much of it stemmed from insecurity, alcoholism, and deep Catholic guilt. He felt unworthy of Hepburn's devotion, yet couldn't bring himself to change. But intention doesn't erase impact. When someone repeatedly mocks you, belittles you, and talks down to you, the emotional damage is real, regardless of their inner turmoil. Hepburn never spoke a truly negative word about Tracy publicly. She adored him until the day he died. But her later interviews and letters make it clear that she carried wounds from their relationship. His jealousy, his temper, his dismissive comments, they all chipped away at her. What the world saw as a great romance was, in many ways, a complicated mix of love, endurance, and inequality. This story matters because it highlights a crucial truth. Tracy didn't think other actors were evil. He often behaved like the difficult one. And if this is how he treated the woman he loved most, it raises tough questions about what he considered acceptable. Number 3. Irene Dunne. Among the many actors Spencer Tracy worked with during his long career, few spoke as candidly about his darker side as Irene Dunne.
Noi non contiamo ad ora. Siamo niente. Eppure il nostro modesto lavoro ha un suo profondo significato.
Known for her grace, professionalism, and calm demeanor, Dunne was the opposite of a Hollywood troublemaker. So when she described working with Tracy on A Guy Named Joe, 1943, as deeply uncomfortable, people listened. Her account is not sensationalized or embellished. It's a simple, sober recollection of a man misusing his power and making a colleague feel unsafe. According to the Daily Telegraph, Dunne found Tracy rude and brusque from the moment shooting began. He was short with her, dismissive, and often unwilling to engage with her attempts at polite conversation. But the situation escalated from mere rudeness into something more disturbing. Dunn recalled that Tracy would lean in during scenes or rehearsals and whisper graphic, sexual comments, explicit descriptions of what he would do to her if he ever got her alone. These weren't flirtatious remarks. They were threatening, unwanted, and delivered in a way that made her feel cornered. Dunn, a seasoned actress with a reputation for grace under pressure, remained professional, but she also knew when someone crossed a line. Rather than confronting Tracy herself, something risky in an era when men like him wielded enormous influence, she went to the highest authority she could reach, Louis B. Mayer, the powerful co-founder of MGM. Mayer personally warned Tracy to stop harassing her. The fact that Mayer intervened at all is revealing. Studios rarely stepped in to protect actresses unless a situation was serious enough to jeopardize production, reputation, or future profits. The incident marks one of the clearest examples of Tracy behaving in a way that today would be recognized instantly as sexual harassment. Dunn never called him evil. She didn't attack him publicly, nor did she attempt to ruin his career. Her remarks were measured, almost understated. She simply said what happened and why she felt uncomfortable, but the picture she painted is unmistakable. Spencer Tracy used his status to intimidate a colleague who deserved respect. This matters because it counters the myth behind the headline. Tracy never revealed 5 evil actors. What surfaces instead is a pattern of Tracy behaving in ways that harmed others. Dunn's experience is not a feud. It's an imbalance of power, and she was the one forced to protect herself from her co-star. The story also highlights how Hollywood operated during the Golden Age. Women like Dunn often had no recourse except private complaints. Public accusations would have destroyed their careers, not the careers of the men who wronged them. Tracy, protected by talent, charisma, and box office clout, faced no long-term consequences. The film moved forward, critics praised his performance, and the studio kept his reputation spotless. Yet Dunn's quiet testimony continues to outlive the studio machine. It reminds us that old Hollywood's glamour existed alongside a darker ecosystem, one where actresses had to navigate powerful men who could support, sabotage, or harass them with impunity. Number 2. Judy Garland. Of all the stories tied to Spencer Tracy's darker side, none is more troubling than the allegations involving Judy Garland. Unlike feuds, casting disputes, or on-set conflicts, this account sits in an entirely different category, one involving exploitation, secrecy, and the disturbing power dynamics that shaped Hollywood's golden age. Whether every detail can be verified or not, the consistency of the reports and the willingness of multiple authors to document them show how seriously the allegations were treated by historians. According to biographer E.J. Fleming, Tracy met Garland in 1935 on the set of La Fiesta de Santa Barbara, a short film featuring MGM's young contract performers. Garland was just 13 years old at the time, talented, eager, and vulnerable within a studio system notorious for its control over child actors. Fleming alleges that Tracy, then 36, began pursuing her. By the time Garland turned 14, he claims Tracy had already begun a sexual relationship with her, something that would be considered predatory, illegal, and unconscionable by any standard. The allegations don't stop with Fleming. Authors Alertsman and W.J. Bernays also document the story and the life and times of Mickey Rooney, stating that Mickey Rooney himself confirmed Garland had told him she was sleeping with Tracy. Rooney, Garland's close friend and frequent co-star, reportedly heard the confession from Garland when both were still teenagers. He later repeated it privately as an adult. These accounts, while controversial, appear in multiple biographical works, all describing the same disturbing pattern. If the relationship happened as described, it didn't occur in a vacuum. MGM's notorious fixers, Eddie Mannix and Howard Strickling, allegedly kept the affair buried. Mannix and Strickling were known for covering up scandals involving major stars, whether that meant concealing affairs, hiding pregnancies, or paying off the press. According to the Daily Telegraph, they knew the vile secret and ensured it never reached the newspapers. Garland, already burdened by studio pressure, body shaming, and punishing work hours, was left unprotected by the people responsible for her well-being. For modern audiences, this revelation is shocking. but for those who understand the studio system, it fits a grim pattern. Child actors were property, stars were assets. Protecting reputations mattered more than protecting people. Garland's teenage years were filled with emotional manipulation from studio executives, diet pills, sleeping pills, and an endless cycle of exploitation. Tracy's alleged involvement becomes part of that larger tragedy, a system that allowed powerful men to take whatever they wanted, with no consequences. Tracy never addressed the allegations publicly. No direct documentation from his lifetime survives to confirm or deny them. But the weight of multiple biographers, the testimony attributed to Mickey Rooney, and the consistent pattern of studio cover-ups make it impossible to dismiss the story outright. What emerges is a portrait not of a feud, but of a young girl failed by every institution around her. Garland's immense talent brought joy to millions, yet behind the scenes she endured trauma no teenager should face. Tracy's alleged actions, if true, represent the darkest behavior associated with him, far more disturbing than any rivalry or public argument. And here's the question. When a beloved artist has a deeply troubling past, can you still separate their legacy from the pain they caused? Or does the truth permanently reshape how you see their work? Number 1. Walter Brennan. While Spencer Tracy's reputation for volatility and complicated relationships is well documented, his clashes with male colleagues often showed a different kind of friction, less predatory or cruel, but rooted in ego, politics, and competition. Of all the men he worked with, Walter Brennan stands out not because Tracy labeled him evil, but because their rivalry exposed Tracy's insecurities and temper more than most people ever realized. Their time together on the 1955 thriller Bad Day at Black Rock illustrated how two very different Hollywood personalities could collide in ways both petty and revealing. Brennan, known for his wise, folksy characters and his distinctive voice, was also famously conservative, one of old Hollywood's most outspoken right-wing performers. Tracy, by contrast, leaned liberal. On a set where long days and tense scenes were already pushing tempers, the political divide between them became an ongoing source of irritation. According to the film blog All Outta Bubblegum, the two men didn't get along during filming due to political differences. And it wasn't just a quiet disagreement. Their arguments, though rarely publicized, were described as sharp, sarcastic, and cutting. Two stubborn veterans determined not to give an inch. Brennan also had a mischievous streak that Tracy found infuriating. Brennan had won 3 Oscars for Best Supporting Actor, making him one of the most decorated actors of his era. Tracy, meanwhile, had won 2 Best Actor awards. Brennan loved rubbing this in. Crew members reported that Brennan would casually hold up 3 fingers whenever awards or performances were discussed, a silent reminder of his victory count. Tracy's reaction was unmistakable: tight jaw, narrowed eyes, and a curt change of subject. It wasn't a serious feud, but it irritated Tracy deeply. Their personalities were fundamentally incompatible. Tracy's on-set persona demanded respect and control, a holdover from years of being MGM's top star. Brennan, older and immune to Hollywood hierarchies, had no interest in catering to Tracy's ego. He treated everyone the same, with wry humor and blunt honesty, which sometimes meant openly challenging Tracy's authority. Their interactions reportedly caused tension felt throughout the cast, though neither man allowed it to spill into their performances. Interestingly, when one examines their scenes in Bad Day at Black Rock, there's a subtle edge in their exchanges, especially in moments where Brennan's character offers advice or skepticism. The irritation Tracy felt in real life seemed to seep into his character's restrained impatience, giving the performances an added layer of authenticity. In that sense, the rivalry may have helped the film rather than hurt it. Yet despite these clashes, Brennan never expressed hatred toward Tracy, nor did Tracy toward Brennan. Their rivalry was more a byproduct of pride than malice. If anything, Brennan seemed to enjoy the game. Tracy, who rarely tolerated anyone challenging him, seemed genuinely rattled. The contrast between their temperaments, Tracy's intensity versus Brennan's casual confidence, created the perfect conditions for ongoing tension. In the end, their feud wasn't loud or scandalous. but it revealed something telling about Tracy. He struggled with anyone who refused to submit to his authority. Brennan wasn't evil, but he represented a type of person Tracy found impossible to handle. Someone who wouldn't bow, wouldn't flatter, and wouldn't be intimidated. So what do we make of the myth that Spencer Tracy once revealed the 5 most evil actors of old Hollywood? After walking through each story, the truth becomes clear. Tracy never made any such list. The headline is pure modern clickbait, the kind of thing designed to spark reactions rather than reflect reality. But what is real are the incidents we explored, moments that show how complicated, flawed, and deeply human Spencer Tracy truly was. Instead of identifying evil in others, his life reveals something more unsettling. Many of the behaviors that would land someone on a most evil list were his own. From manipulating casting decisions, to belittling Katharine Hepburn, to harassing co-stars, to the disturbing allegations involving Judy Garland, Tracy's legacy is shadowed by actions that today would be career-ending. Even his more light-hearted rivalries, like the one with Walter Brennan, show how quickly his temper could ignite when pride was involved. But examining these stories also reminds us of something important. Old Hollywood was not a golden age of innocence. It was a place where power went unchecked, where studios buried scandals, and where many actors behaved in ways that were rarely questioned. Tracy wasn't uniquely monstrous. He was a product of a system that protected its stars no matter the cost. The myth of his evil actors list persists because it satisfies a craving we all have. We want the heroes of cinema to speak honestly, to expose bad behavior, to pull back the curtain. But in Tracy's case, the curtain lifts in the opposite direction. The villains weren't out there. It was the man standing at the center of the legend. What do you think? Do these stories change your view of Spencer Tracy? Should the art he created be judged separately from the life he lived? Let us know your thoughts below, and if you want more deep dive Hollywood history, don't forget to like and subscribe.